Hey everyone, NewThrow12 here. Thank you guys for clicking on the video. And last time the fucking meme got me. But that was pretty that was fun. I like what the game did there. That was funny. I greatly appreciate that. Either way, let's get into it. I had a restless night's sleep. I did nothing but turn over repeatedly during a night that seemed like it lasted for eternity. Even then, I eventually fell asleep at some point, not realizing how high in the sky the sun had risen. I shook off the urge to go back to sleep. It was then when I noticed that the phone was ringing. The time was almost 10:30 in the morning. It was clearly too late for a wake-up call. It's probably the village people asking where the fuck you are, because I'm pretty sure you said you'd be there the next day. Akasaka? Good morning, it's Oishi. Waking up to the sound of Oishi's voice was a little too much of a shock. My delicate ears were ringing. I don't think it is booming, I think of it more as terrifying. But thanks to that shock, I was suddenly wide awake. Hello. Good morning. Could it be you just woke up? Even though you're on assignment, it's still not good to be asleep during regular business hours. You're absolutely right. I'll be more careful in the future. I have another tidbit that might wake you up even more. There was something interesting mixed in with the lost and found at the Hinamizawa police box. Lost and found? Let's leave the details for when you get here. God damn you. You think you'll be able to make it before noon? No, I'll be there right away. Oishi already knew what my mission was, since Oishi said it was something that would wake me up. It was hard to believe that it would be irrelevant to me. Honestly speaking, judging by the information from Sato yesterday, knowing that my cover was already blown, I couldn't wander to and from Hinamizawa carelessly. In other words, my investigation was at an impasse. If there was some information in there that could put me back on the trail, that would be nothing less than a stroke of good fortune. After vigorously washing my face, I pulled on my jacket and hailed a taxi, heading towards the Okonomiya police station. Oh, you're here. The genius mahjong player has arrived. My apologies for being late. So exactly what popped up. With absolutely no intention of reminiscing about last night's mahjong game, I pressed him to get to the point. Oishi, anticipating that I would act that way, cut to the chase without any resistance. Like I said earlier, something arrived from the Hinamizawa police box, lost and found this morning. Lost items that were turned over to the police box were sent to Okonomiya Station after the paperwork was filled out. Oishi pulled out a plastic bag from a drawer and laid its labeled contents on the desk. Is that a wallet? Indeed. There was a small change inside, but no bills. We thought that the pickpocket threw it away after pulling out the contents. At first, I didn't understand how this wallet was so far removed from Tokyo, could possibly be related to the kidnapping. Oh, please tell me it's his. I would laugh. If it had drawn Oishi's attention, it would have to be something dramatic, like if the wallet belonged to the missing grandchild. That would be absurd. Like something that convenient would happen. If that was it, then there was probably initials written on the wallet. I'm telling you, it's fucking his. Like the initials of Toshiki Inugai, the minister's grandson, T.I. Thinking like that at this point, I didn't suppose that this wallet was something that could get Oishi so excited. Oishi, after putting on a pair of disposable plastic gloves, handed me a pair of the same. I didn't feel like this wallet was such an important thing, so I had my doubts about whether there was any point in putting on gloves. However, I didn't want Oishi's intentions to go to waste, so I put them on. Oishi opened up the plastic bag and pulled it out, showing me the back. As I had imagined, there were initials engraved there, but it was slightly more detailed than what I had thought, with Toshiki I marked on it. Damn, I was really hoping it was his, and then it would be like, oh fuck, you're screwed. Like that kind of to wake you up. Oishi grinned at me with a look of it on his face that said, see? We can't confirm that from this belongs to the minister's grandson, I informed him calmly. This wallet was irrelevant. It was nothing more than Oishi's overeagerness. First of all, there was absolutely no way in this distant locale that the missing grandson's wallet would be found with such convenient timing. After all, the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance wasn't related to the case in the first place. So there was no way this wallet belonged to the grandson. Why I wanted to decide that that was the case, even I didn't really know. Even though what should have been a top secret case was leaked before I had even been dispatched. In this situation, how could I say this was definitely unrelated? Would it be more prudent to pay more attention to this wallet? It had only been a couple days since I arrived in Hinamizawa. But in those couple days, due to the number of remarkable events, my nerves might have become just a little frayed. Shaking my head slightly, I cleared it of unnecessary thoughts. Oishi opened the wallet zipper, revealing the contents. Inside was a small change and a number of crumpled receipts. What the fuck is the kid buying? Oishi from that jumble pulled out a folded card. Seeing that, my heart stopped for a moment. It was a card from a dental examination. Oh, yeah, that's right, he had like dental problems or whatever. That fucking kid. The name Toshiki Inukai and the age. Or that. A perfect match. The dentist's location was in Tokyo. There was no need to explain any further. How far was it from Tokyo to Hinamizawa? Too far. It was far enough that taking the bullet trains and cars would still take several hours. Why would a wallet with a dental examination card from Tokyo inside show up in Hinamizawa? Could it belong to a tourist who came from Tokyo? Dude, shut the fuck up. Or maybe a villager on vacation to Tokyo just happened to pay a visit to the dentist. No, it had to have fallen into someone's bag by accident, and then fell into... Come on. I know you don't want to, but it's kind of ridiculous at this point. In my mind, I desperately struggled to find a possible excuse as to why this wallet didn't belong to Toshiki Inukai. Well, plausible is still better. Yeah, fuck you, game. It was as if it just wouldn't do for this wallet to belong to him. However, weeding out any possibility for error one by one, the haze surrounding the wallet in front of me faded, gradually letting it come into clear focus. See? I felt a shiver of electricity run up my spine. My pulse quickened, and a thin film of sweat began to coat my entire body. From Oishi's point of view, I was probably slack-jawed and spaced out, with a slovenly look on my face. Did you get information from the dental office? Or whatever. That's your job, Akasaka. I didn't go that far. When did this wallet show up? The person who picked it up was a villager. They did so yesterday, it seems. No, when was this wallet dropped? It rained here last week, exactly 7 days ago. It doesn't look like the contents are water damage, so the longest it would probably be 6 days. Does anyone else at the station have knowledge of the existence of this wallet? The officer who first encountered it at the Hinamizawa police box, and also the 2 or 3 people in charge of the lost and found. Other than that, it's just me and you. If it's involved in a classified case, it would be bad to talk about, wouldn't it? I don't intend to wag my tongue. May I borrow your phone? Go ahead. Dial 0 to get an outside line. Every time. I dialed the phone number inscribed on the examination card. I could hear my pulse pounding inside my head. Could there possibly be something so absurd? The addresses on the receipts and cards inside the wallet were all from around the area where the grandson lived. The name on the examination card was also a match. The time was we deduced that the wallet had been left behind also matched up with the timeline of the kidnapping. Of course, it was possible I could just laugh it off as all a big pile of coincidences. There wasn't any strong evidence. Like I said, if you have enough circumstantial evidence, it becomes a real fact. Or at least, that's my motto. I don't know if I actually said this on a video. Fuck. Anyways, enough circumstantial evidence, it's enough to warrant suspicion. Rather than all this circumstantial proof, the contents of the phone call I was about to make would have to have a much greater meaning. Hello, sir. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is the dental office. The dental office. No others. Hello. This is the police. I have a misplaced wallet here, and I'm trying to get in contact with the owner. Would you be able to help me? Inside the wallet, there was an examination card from your office. Yes. The name is Toshiki Inugai. If I give you the number on the card, would you be able to look up the phone number? Yes, thank you. If you could. Still holding the receiver, I pulled out a notebook from my breast pocket with my free hand. I opened it up to the page with the grandson's address and phone number recorded on it. Oh, fuck. Yes, hello. Yeah, go ahead. I compared the phone number written in my notebook to the one that was being read out on the other end of the line. It's the exact same. During that process, I spun around to look behind me uneasily. I locked eyes with Oishi. Oishi looked puzzled, wondering what the matter was. Why would I feel uneasy and look behind me? That was because the person on the end of the line was reading out the numbers as though doing so straight from my notebook. It seemed that HQ was in quite an uproar thanks to my report. No matter how many times that authenticity of the evidence I had linked to the grandson was called into question, I could only respond that it was the truth. Jesus. That fucking sucks. When the lead investigator first picked up the phone, I was grilled about the evidence I'd found that was almost too good to be true, if I do say so myself. But after having doubt after doubt dispelled, he fell into silence. The receiver was finally handed over to the section chief. You've done your job, leave, thank God. That's all I would say. You've done your job, get the fuck out. It's time for the military, or whoever the fuck handles this shit. I'm just an investigator, I'm not doing this shit. Bye. I did my job, it's time for anyone else to do theirs. When he picked it up, the background thrum of the other end of the line disappeared, and I knew that it had gone completely silent. After asking the same questions about the wallet that the lead investigator did, the chief quietly spoke his next words. Got it. We'll dispatch several people as reinforcements. They should be able to make it there by evening. Akasaka, please continue with your investigation of the area. Get some information on the spot where the wallet was found. Kano will select some people and head there directly. Head directly there. The fact that he was sending Kano, whatever. The lead investigator here meant that the chief had decided there was a possibility that the Onagafuji Defense Alliance was somehow implicit in the kidnapping. However, it felt as though until the lead investigator, whom he trusted, had verified the evidence with his own eyes, he was still going to be skeptical about it. How'd it go? It seems that HQ is sending reinforcements, and I'm getting the fuck out of here. I was ordered to investigate the area. That's when he just starts sobbing. No. Where was the wallet dropped? Around Takatsudo, apparently. This is Okamiya. All the way over here, this is Hinamizawa. Then even further upstream, way up around here is Takatsudo. Oishi explained where the wallet was found by pointing to the locations on the map on the wall. This place called Taketsudo was even more remote than Hinamizawa was. Perfect place to hide a child. There's hardly anybody living in the area around Taketsudo. It was deserted a long time ago. It's littered with abandoned houses, so it's really quite desolate around there. Oishi, could I ask you to guide me to Taketsudo? Yeah, I don't mind. You can't really get in and out of Hinamizawa as you please by yourself, after all. Of course, I'll have to make you wear the cap and mask again. That Oishi had agreed to accompany me was very reassuring. If Sato's information was to be believed, my cover had been blown. I wasn't sure if the villagers had realized that the fresh meat dispatched from the public safety was the tourist that had visited the village yesterday, in other words, me. But deciding that they hadn't noticed would have been overly optimistic. Oh, they fucking know it's you. Come on. Anyone would have been able to tell. Given a cursory thought, Taketsudo, where the wallet was found, couldn't be ruled out as a hiding spot for the kidnappers. The Taketsudo area didn't have any residential buildings, nor was it alongside a highway. There was no reason for even the locals to go out of their way to visit it. Oh, this is all an effort just to get the dude out there. It could be. Like they did it on purpose just to get the public investigator to go out there so they could like fucking kidnap him and kill him. Something like that. It was exactly what you would call a long-forgotten ghost town at the end of the road. You couldn't ask for a better place to hold a kidnapped grandson. Also, you couldn't get to Taketsudo without passing through Hinamizawa first, and that's already a challenge. Those several conditions made the area all the more important. I couldn't brush it off any longer. There was no longer any doubt that the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance or somebody hired by them were involved in the kidnapping. If that was the case, then the fact that this wallet was found might have already been leaked to them. They even knew so much as how the Public Safety Division was operating. The case of the wallet couldn't be something they didn't know. In that case, there was a possibility that the enemy was lying in wait. I'm telling you, it was a fucking play. It was a plant. They planted that shit just to draw you out. Calling it. To dive alone into enemy territory, surrounded by enemy territory. Okay. That's the definition of enemy territory. What the fuck is your... What? Dive into enemy territory surrounded by enemy territory. That's the definition of enemy territory. You're behind the lines. What? Maybe in enemy territory surrounded by enemies. That would make a little more sense, but come on. To say the least, required an amount of courage, nay recklessness, that I just did not have. Oh, I'm not fucking reckless in that. Fuck that. I can smell a trap from a mile away. That's a trap. Fuck that. Oishi, you can have fun. I'm not going. Without your company, Oishi, I wouldn't be able to step into the village so easily. Thank you very much for your cooperation. So fuck you. I hope he doesn't die. Because in the other chapters, he's alive. Damn it. Honestly, I thought you would ask for more money. That's not out of the question. Well, if you're being honest, Hinamizawa isn't exactly a place I like to go. I'd at least appreciate it if you paid for cab fare. Still, it's not a request I can refuse from a friend that's played at the same table as me. Oishi grinned as he pounded me on the back. Yeah, fucking asshole. It struck me that he just didn't want to jump ship rather than having any sort of sense of duty towards his job. Even so, that didn't really matter. Right now, I really appreciated the gesture. Well then, shall we hurry up and get going? If the enemy knew that the police had obtained the wallet, then they would probably have moved the hostage to a different place. There wasn't a moment to lose. But Oishi, without regard to that fact that we were about to head out, began to remove his jacket. What are you doing? Well, just a precaution. If you want me to poke the beehive to get you honey, I have to be rather well prepared, you see. You want to put one on too? What Oishi pulled out from the drawer below the desk was a stab-proof vest. Thank you. Thank God it's not in America. Where you'd be fucked. His name was Toshiki Inugai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction Inugai. There was only one reason for him being here. If you didn't include gym or art class, his grades were above average. That was the result of having private tutoring sessions twice a week. If you omitted the fact that he still couldn't do pull-ups, there wasn't much else that would make him hate his school. Of course, he understood full well that his grandfather was a cabinet minister, but he also knew that not too many people were that interested in their relationship. He didn't like to go out of his way to bring up his grandfather, or to call him the Minister of Construction. True. People do rely on titles really heavily. It seems. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you do something stupid, I'm gonna call you out on it. I don't give a fuck who you are. And finally, he at least tried to know a little more about what kind of work the Minister of Construction did than your average Joe. Well, yeah, he's the grandchild. What that entailed was when you tried your best to make life better for the masses, sometimes you made a few enemies. He knew that all too well from the time he'd spent as class representative. His grandfather had many enemies. He knew that he might personally catch some of that fallout, so he had to be twice as cautious. He was taught that by his parents. That's why the moment he was kidnapped, he instantly knew that this was one of those occasions. He understood that he wasn't being treated as Toshiki Inugai, the person, but rather as Toshiki Inugai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction. That he wasn't personally at fault, but that this was the result of some unavoidable trouble with his grandfather's work. It made little difference, but when he realized it wasn't because of anything he did, he was able to relax, if only a little. Of course, at first he was struck with the terror befitting his age, wondering what was going to happen to him. But after a while of being tied up and only being able to stay laying down, he began to ponder a great many things. What is the reason of living? Oh my god. If this fucking child does that, I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm done for the day. First he thought about the reason he was being abducted like this. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I wonder why. He understood the answer to that easily. He was taken hostage to coerce his grandfather, the minister. There was no doubt about that. He didn't know exactly what the Minister of Construction did, but it was easy to imagine that there was much to be gained from threatening him. He respected his grandfather more than most. He earnestly believed that his own grandfather was within the top 20 of the most important people in Japan. That wasn't exactly why he wouldn't forgive anybody who tried to threaten his beloved grandfather. More importantly, he wouldn't forgive anybody who would use him as a tool to threaten his grandfather. His grandfather was really busy and rarely had time to meet with relatives. God, this fucking kid's really fucking self-aware. Jesus. That's why with that little time he did manage to scrape together, he just dropped by unannounced. And as an apology for not being able to meet during New Year's or summer vacation, he doted on his grandson very, very much. The number of times that Toshiki was looked upon with disregard just because his grandfather was a politician and a minister certainly weren't few. But he never thought even once that he wanted his grandfather to quit being a politician. Because of his beloved grandfather, he wanted him to continue his career as long as possible from the bottom of his heart. However, Toshiki was now being held hostage, and his grandfather was being threatened. His grandfather, who called him the apple of his eye, was surely suffering. He might do anything to save his grandson, maybe even putting aside his ideology, if it was required to save his grandson. He might cave into the culprit's demands if it meant saving his grandson. When Toshiki thought about that, an inexplicable anger welled up within him. In his current situation, he was unable to forgive the cowards who would make his beloved grandfather suffer by using such dastardly means. That feeling welled up inside of him, displacing the fear. What he thought of first was something any boy would imagine. Get out of these bonds, beat up the bad guys, then hand them over to the police. Imagine Images of all the brave heroes from all the manga he had read passed through the back of his mind. See, if I was in that situation, all I would think is, God, I would get fucking stabbed. I'll lose an arm. No thank you. I'd rather just be bound here sleeping. And hope to God that the grandfather cares enough to appease their demands and let me the fuck go. Because I would love that instead of dying. In his imaginary scenario, he slipped his bonds easily, floating like a butterfly to evade his captors, then stinging like a fuck off. Fuck with these references to bring them all down. Fuck the bee. In the end, it was nothing more than his silly little fantasy, but with his vision obstructed and unable to see anything, it was something that he could get into more than any anime at the moment. In actuality, he was enjoying these little scenarios in his head. For the long period of time he was tied up, his captors hadn't really done anything to him that they would feel sorry for. However, eventually he began to grow tired of his fantasies, and more realistic scenarios began to run through his head. It was then he realized that none of them were a solution. Yes, he wanted to do something for his grandfather who was being threatened. That he was being held here to inflict pain on his grandfather was the thing that he could least forgive, and also the most vexing. And then he noticed there was a much simpler way he could save his grandfather without having to beat up his despicable captors. Don't say fucking kill yourself. That was to remove himself as hostage from the hands of these villains. Of course. Of course. Because let's not think about it logically, let's think of it emotionally. Let's put other people's needs before your own. Okay, well that's a little shitty to say, but that's what I do. I put myself in front of the needs of the many. Fuck the needs of the many. I give a fuck about what I do. Sorry if it hurts anyone's feelings. I care about other people, of course, but my well-being comes first. That's just how it is. I'm not gonna fucking take a bullet for anyone. Just because. It'll make them feel better. No, I don't want to die. Well, I mean, maybe. I might meet someone that's like such a good person that I'd be willing to take a bullet for, but there's really no one else that I'd take a legitimate bullet for. Maybe some other physical pain that I would take for someone else, but no life-ending pain for someone else, because it's like, fuck you. I'd rather care about myself. If he was to disappear from here, his captors would have nothing to threaten his grandfather with. How would you get away? Please tell me. The captors had restrained him, but they didn't treat him roughly, and they made sure he was fed well enough. Meaning at most he was nothing more than the means for their threat. They weren't looking to bully or kill him out of spite. If he behaved, no ill would befall him. Okay, don't do anything stupid. Realizing that gave him a strong sense of courage. That means if you fuck up, they'll beat the shit out of you. In carrying his train of thought this far, he let it run its course to its natural conclusion. Right now, at this moment, Toshiki Inugai had decided to escape. Don't. His ears had been stuffed with a sponge-like material acting as makeshift earplugs. However, they didn't actually do much to block out any sound, and he could overhear everything his captors were saying. Realizing that this was his advantage, even when his captors spoke to him, he acted like he couldn't hear them due to the earplugs. His captors, thinking that he couldn't hear them, their conversation, talked about all sorts of things without any reservations. See, you need to test out your own device to make sure it's really good before using it. Fucking dumbasses. Thanks to that, he was able to obtain various pieces of information. First off, this wasn't Tokyo. Oh! Bravo, fucking kid. Wow, great deducing. Regular fucking Batman. It seemed that this was quite a distance away, and on top of that in the countryside, nestled deep in the mountains. That's where all the kidnapping people go. Why would they have it across the street from your house? I'll never suspect anything. It also seemed that his captors were inconvenienced living out here, so he could deduce that this place was far removed from any sort of town. Again, that's what you want. Finally, whenever they went out to buy food or other supplies, they would always take a car. That fact caused him some dismay, because he knew that the method he learned at school of running around blindly while shouting for help wouldn't work here. Well, Mr. Genius, you already deduced number 2 of that fact that is far removed from a town, so clearly this other deduction's the same line of thinking. Come on, kid. If you're gonna say you gathered various information, how about put it to fucking use? He paused in a little mental escape scenario there. Because if he's gonna be that fucking deep about his grandfather, he's gonna be that fucking deep about his escape. Come on. His ultimate goal was to find somebody who would help him. If somebody who fit that description wasn't close by, his chances of escaping successfully grew slim. They're already fucking slim. You're not gonna get away. Sorry to break it to you, buddy, but someone's gonna have to bust you out. A desolate, far-off land deep in the mountains. A place where you couldn't even go shopping without using a car. In this situation, escaping would be very difficult. He grew depressed, and after a little while, he returned to his original scenario. Imagining becoming a hero like in the manga he read and beat down his captors became his respite. However, as he played those delusions out in his head, his heart, hating to surrender, continued to search for a way to escape. And then he thought of a way. If the goal was far away, then all he had to do was get closer. His goal in a nutshell was to find somebody who would help him. In other words, somebody other than his captors. If he faked being sick, then his captors would have to take him to the hospital or bring a doctor to him. They'd probably have a doctor connected to him who doesn't give a fuck. They would probably be reluctant to do that, if they even go to the doctor for you. But he already knew that the hostage was more important than anything. In the off chance that something happened, like him dying occurred, they wouldn't be able to threaten anybody anymore. That's the thing, though. He doesn't know! The minister doesn't know! You could lie. It wouldn't matter. That's the great part. They could kill you and still act like you're alive. Luckily, he had an experience that would help him fake a serious illness. Luckily. At the end of last year, he was inadvertently involved in a car accident and had to undergo surgery. The scar from that surgery was still clearly visible on his lower torso. He recalled the pain and suffering from that time. The extent of that experience would make a huge impact on the realism of his performance. He was quite confident in his ability to fake an illness. God, once you actually have like a significant injury that hurts really bad, God, it's terrible. Because you always get those like phantom pain type things, just that ever like so twinge of pain that's nowhere near as painful, but it's like, ooh, that's right, that hurt a lot. Just like a searing pain. It's terrible. I've only been like majorly injured once. And it was the worst. I was being stupid, but it was the worst.